Welcome to EduTips, a side project of the Cult of Pedagogy podcast where I share one quick idea to make your teaching better. This is Jennifer Gonzalez and I am your host. This EduTip is sponsored by Floop. Do you spend hours giving feedback only to find students throwing it in the trash? Floop is an app that allows teachers to give feedback 4 times faster. After students submit their work through the app, teachers can respond quickly with comment banks, audio comments, hand-drawn responses, and feedback that can be anchored to specific places on images. Unlike other assessment tools, Floop uses research-based strategies to teach students how to give feedback and use their feedback to learn. Through dialogue and revision, students can act fast on the feedback they receive. On top of that, Floop allows them to do peer review and self-assessment, which both build feedback literacy. Go to floopedu.com, that's floopedu.com/edutips to get a special offer for EduTips listeners. Or contact Floop at team@floopedu.com for a school license. Today's EduTip is Stop Popcorn Reading. Popcorn reading, which is also known as round-robin reading, is a classroom practice in which students go around the room taking turns reading a text out loud. Typically, this is done with longer passages, like textbook chapters or chapters in a book of fiction. The very short version of my message today is that popcorn reading is a terrible practice and you should stop doing it. We will get into why it's ineffective and what to do instead in a minute. First, let's talk about why we use this practice, because it turns out lots of teachers are still doing it. When I subjected my students to popcorn reading, and I did occasionally do it when I was an English teacher because I didn't know any better back then, I did it for a few reasons. First, it was a way of getting through content consistently. If everyone was listening to the same text at the same time, they were therefore all learning it. No one was getting ahead. No one was falling behind. The other reason, honestly, it kept everyone still and quiet. And for a teacher, keeping everyone still and quiet is sometimes an absolute necessity, especially when you don't have a lot of effective teaching and classroom management strategies at your disposal. Other teachers have reported that they use popcorn reading because students like it and because it provides reading and listening practice. When we look at its lack of actual effectiveness, we'll see that most of these reasons fall apart. So what's wrong with it? I'll just give you the 3 most important reasons, which are backed by research you can find linked in the written version of this podcast. Just go to cultofpedagogy.com/edutips and click EduTip 7. The first reason is that it's terrible for comprehension. Listening to a text read aloud with multiple interruptions by readers at various skill levels is a recipe for awful reading comprehension. 2, it delays fluency development. Yes, both emerging and experienced readers need practice in reading aloud, but doing it in the high-pressure environment of a popcorn reading session is not the ideal scenario for that to happen. Third, and finally, it creates anxiety and reduces confidence for less skilled readers. Those who are already proficient may enjoy the opportunity to practice and perform, but others usually feel a great deal of anxiety and humiliation during popcorn reading. Not only does this interfere with the comprehension that was supposed to happen during the reading, it also reinforces negative beliefs they may already have about their skill as readers. So what should we be doing instead? Well, in the written version of this, I'm linking you to 2 different resources. One is a research paper by Johnson and Lapp, and the other is an Edutopia article by Todd Finley. Both of them offer a long list of alternative practices, but I will give you just a few here. So if you're trying to develop fluency, one thing you can do instead of popcorn or round-robin reading is echo reading, where the instructor reads one short part of the text and then the student repeats after them. This can be done one-on-one or with a whole class. By modeling what a proficient reader sounds like, this gives students more practice in good reading with expression rather than just decoding on their own. Another strategy, if you want students to actually comprehend the text, try reciprocal teaching, a small group strategy in which students read small chunks of the text Then take turns with the jobs of summarizing, questioning, clarifying, and predicting. Another is independent silent reading with appropriate scaffolding like anticipation guides and guided notes. This works toward the ultimate goal of having students become independent readers. And finally, teacher read aloud offers all kinds of benefits. Students hear the text read correctly and smoothly so they can build an understanding of the text without constant interruption. This also models for them what proficient reading aloud sounds like, so they are only getting good examples rather than being forced to listen to hours of less skilled reading. That's your tip for this time. You can find a written version of these tips at cultofpedagogy.com/edutips. Now go forth, make thoughtful choices, and teach.